Mr. West, Mr. West, West, Mr. By himself, he's so impressed. I mean, damn, you need to see the test. You got these, motherfucker, these. Rosie Perez, and yeah, it's barely passed. Ain't he in every class? Looking at every ass. Cheating on every test.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Music Gauntlet channel. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Of course, I am your host, Stuart Little, and today we get to take a little stroll down memory lane and look at the worst albums of 2018. Now, I see a lot of people just listing off their worst albums of the year instead of actually ranking them, and to that I say, that's some weak shit. If you already got the guts to say those albums aren't good in the first place, what's stopping you from ranking them out? Just list 1 to 10 and some easy stuff. It just shows you got some guts. You're willing to actually say which albums are worse than other albums. That's how you know you're in the big leagues. That's how you know you're messing with the big dogs. We're willing to say this album, nah, it wasn't just one of the worst albums, it was the worst album of the year. Yeah. If I'm putting in the effort, I'm gonna be able to suck my own dick a little bit, alright? But in all seriousness, guys, I appreciate you tuning into this video. I know there are a lot of urine lists out there, so it's easy to just get lost in them and just not really credit anybody. But I appreciate you giving me your time today. If you disagree with any of these opinions, of course, like I just said, these are just opinions. Like, you don't have to hate these albums, too. Of course, I already know going into this that there are artists that I'm gonna list off that some people do like, so, big old disclaimer, you don't have to agree with me. Just like the whole point of my channel, the whole point of this video is just to have a little fun and create a little discussion centered around music. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the top 10 worst albums of 2018. Starting with...
10.
Hey, so remember a time when Justin Timberlake wasn't annoying? Yeah, me too. I kind of don't even know how to describe why this album is so bad. It's just a huge misstep in trying to clash sounds together. Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of Future Sex Love Sounds, but at the very least, it was Justin Timberlake in his element, and there are songs in there that you can't deny have stood the test of time.
Come here, girl. Go ahead, be gone with it. Come to the back. Go ahead, be gone with it.
Even on the 2020 experience, both part 1 and 2, I didn't feel like he was releasing anything too out of ordinary. If anything, it was elongated, more personal, a little experimental, but overall, both really kind of decent projects. I didn't hate either of them. So it kind of throws my brain through a big old loop when I see him release this kind of album, and it is of this poor of quality. Like, wow. What's crazy is this doesn't even sound like Justin Timberlake. It sounds like somebody that's trying to impersonate Justin Timberlake and how he would make an album that would sound like this. Filthy sounds like it could have been off of one of his older albums if it wasn't for those loud techno in the background that makes, I think he thinks it sounds cool or it's really trendy. It kind of just goes back to the main issue with this album overall. It's Justin Timberlake trying to sound hip with the new sound, but what's weird is, like, dubstep and techno isn't what's huge right now, and the fact that him and Pharrell thought it'd be a good idea to release this album sounding this way, I'm kind of baffled, especially because Pharrell had a hand in this too. And please tell me what's up with that Hers interlude. Like, that girl is talking about wearing a jacket like she's wearing somebody's skin, like she is a serious psychopath. What is up with that skit? The only reason this album is this low is because I can tell they put a lot of effort into the way this album sounds, and I don't mind some of the tracks on it. Like, Supplies has a weird place in my heart, and also Montana is a pretty decent track too. But yeah, overall in my eyes, this was a pretty big step down for Justin Timberlake, and if he continues to do this kind of sound, I hope he finds a better way to do it, and just makes it sound more cohesive and less clunky.
9.
So yeah, remember earlier when I said there are some artists that people like that are going to be on this list? This is the one I was most worried about. I know the Barbs can be a pretty vicious fan base, so I'm not really trying to piss anybody off, and please, Barbs, if you do get offended by this video, just know it is all in good fun, and I'm trying to make it home to my family for the holidays. Please, I swear to God, don't find out where I live. I swear to God, please don't. But I want to ask everybody a very serious question.
Are you actually trying to sit down and hear an hour and 6 minutes of Nicki Minaj?
I understand that she can be extremely talented, and I do enjoy her songs, especially her album The Pink Print in the past, but this album is very clearly her not living up to her full capabilities. There are some highlights on the project, like the lead single Chun-Li that I actually really enjoy, and also the song Majesty with Labrinth and Eminem isn't too bad either. It's kind of interesting how they structure that song. But I'm sorry, where Nicki Minaj falters is the fact that she thinks her fans, and really anybody in general, is willing to sit through this much music of hers. As if because her name is just simply Nicki Minaj, people will eat this album up regardless of the length or regardless of the quality. Or maybe I'm wrong, maybe Nicki Minaj doesn't really care about how good her album is or how much people like it. Oh wait, remember? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Never mind. The reason this album is so low is because it kind of has the same issue as Justin Timberlake. It's not an inherently offensive album, it's just the fact that it has such a long runtime of nothing going on makes it that much of an uninteresting listen. Like, are you really gonna sit there and tell me that Rich Sex, or Bed, or Chun Sui were any of your favorite tracks of 2018? I don't think so. Filler after filler, this album hardly has a moment where it's being that original or that interesting, and to me, it just makes it that bad. If I had to pick one thing overall that is the most upsetting about this album, it's the fact that Nicki Minaj obsesses over the fact that she's some kind of all-powerful mighty being. So I guess if your thing is just sitting there and listening to somebody talk about how amazing they are for an hour and 6 minutes, go right ahead. But for me, this was a hard skip, and I'm gonna go back and listen to the Pink Print and remember when Nicki Minaj actually had some quality tracks under her belt.
8.
At the very least, I can give Nicki Minaj that she sounded confident and interested with the fact that she was that amazing, but on this next pick with Quavo and Quavo Honcho, it just sounds like he's completely uninterested throughout the whole entire project. The bars for this album sound like they were definitely recorded within a week span. Like, the whole entire album, he was just spewing bars at the wall and seeing which ones weren't ass and just putting them into the songs. And I mean, really, is the bar so low for the Migos that they can get away with releasing songs that sound just like this, that are a complete waste of time? When the highlight of the album isn't even yourself and it's the guests that you bring onto it, that's how you know you first have a problem. By far, the most interesting parts of this album were seeing how we do collaborations with the likes of Madonna and Kid Cudi. Most of the album is filled with brain-numbing trap music that even knows itself that it's going to be here today and gone tomorrow with how low quality it is. And Workin' Me, Lamb Talk, and Bubblegum are some of the worst promotional singles for an album I think I've ever heard. Great job. Yeah, the best way to build hype for your album was releasing some of the most boring songs off of it. Great thinking, Quavo. I wish I could say I expected more from this album, but just by looking at the track list and looking at the length, I kinda knew off the bat that it was gonna be a real stinker. Didn't have high hopes, but man, this album still found a way to let me down.
7.
Alright, somebody, I want answers, and I want answers now. Who is the man, who is the person, who is the living being in this world that told Tyga to go ahead and try an R&B album? Who is it? Because they are getting some kind of crucified. Isn't it crazy to think about how Tyga went from dropping this shit of an album to actually coming back and releasing some decent singles that dominated the summer? Like, what a comeback. My biggest problem with Tyga is he thinks he's good enough to go on these musical ventures and create an album like Kayoto, but when you really break it down, he's the same guy who comes up with lines like these.
Don't suck me like a fucking high C.
Of course, Tyga albums in the past aren't the greatest, and I'd be surprised if you could name me more than 2 of those album titles, but is it really necessary for him to push his limits this far? And I'd say I'd feel bad for the features, but when's the last time you saw Tory Lanez or Gucci Mane not selling themselves out on anybody's music? There really isn't a whole lot more to say about this album. It's really just a hard skip, especially if you're a Tyga fan. Like, I don't even know if those exist out there. That's probably a dying breed, but still. This is Tyga's worst album by far, and really in general, just one of the worst of the year.
6.
Listen, I get it. Charlie Puth, he's a cute boy, he can sing well, and he makes those pop tunes that make your heart swell up and just fall head over heels for him. I get it, trust me. But that in and of itself is kind of the main issue I have with him. It's the main fact that this album is completely filled to the brim with songs about heartbreak, and the subject matter hardly varies for any of the songs. I mean, yeah, he does find a way to switch it up, I guess. It's either he's the problem, the girl's the problem, or the relationship is just toxic in general.
But by God.
Every song is just whiny and complaining, and it's just hearing this man talk about his girl problems for a whole fucking album. When people say they enjoy his music, I don't really get upset. I actually understand why. It's relatable and it's kind of catchy. Just from my male perspective, sitting down and listening to this, on top of the way his voice sounds, it's just extremely grating and annoying, and I just wish I didn't waste my time listening to it. Really, the only song I could tolerate was Attention, but even that got ruined by the radio for me, even though it has a nice groove to it. I'm glad he's doing his thing, I'm glad he's growing a fan base, but this music is not for me, and I am destined to not check out his projects in the future because he has not released anything that great to me. If you enjoy this album, great, but for me, it's a hard pass.
5.
Look, Dummy Boy was a bad album, but at least it had some sparing moments, and to put it on the worst albums of the year list, it just wasn't that bad to me. However, Day 69, that's a different story. Yeah, I know, a groundbreaking opinion that I think 6ix9ine isn't that good, right? I know everybody's heard every opinion of 6ix9ine from left to right. He's been the highlight of this whole year, being basically a meme in and of himself. But a bad project is a bad project, and Day 69 was nothing but just shouting minimalistic rap. Hearing this man try and compose an album is like watching a toddler trying to assemble a house out of blocks. And I don't blame him. I know he's very young and still had some growth left in his career, so it's not necessarily like this album is the worst thing to ever touch this earth. But when pretty much all of your songs sound the same and can only be differentiated by the artist that you feature on them, that's how you know it's a problem, and that's how you know you have a real shitty album. And I mean, come on, are you really sitting there, if you're not at the gym, just listening to 6ix9ine shout in your ear? Like, the only time I can hear you listening to this music is if you're at the gym just trying to put in the work and you are mad pissed off at the world. Other than that, why are you listening to this man? 6ix9ine as a person aside, this album just was not of any good quality, and you know when the highlight of it was just featuring Offset for a remix of one of your songs, that's an issue too. If anybody actually likes this album, God bless your soul, but for me, it is a big no thanks. Oh boy, what happened to Fall Out Boy, huh? I was a young lad once that hated the world around him, and this was definitely a band that I always went to, with a few other alternative bands thrown in there too. Now, I'd be lying if I said I didn't see a natural digression in their music over the years, but I still enjoyed albums like Save Rock and Roll and American Beauty. I mean, aside from a few cringeworthy moments. But with this album, it just sounds like they let all the cringiness that has been building up over the years just manifest itself into its own album. The music just doesn't have any edge to it anymore. It completely sounds like they've been selling out their souls to the music industry. Even as far as pop punk goes, this is like the lightest music in that genre you could probably find. Like, this really is the kind of music you play in the car so your mom doesn't get mad at you when you tell her you like punk music. But by far, one of the worst elements of this album is the fact that they try to bleed together other genres like techno, and on the song Young and Menace, that is probably one of the worst songs I think I've heard all year, and last year because that's when it was a single too. I don't even understand how Fall Out Boy fans could like this album. It just differentiates from their style. It's just way too squeaky clean for them. At the end of the day, I hope they got a nice, healthy paycheck for making this kind of music, and I know some of these songs did chart, or at least one or two of them, so good for them, I guess, but this still is just not that great of an album. And for them, easily their worst. Hopefully they can do better in the future. Alright, baby. Top 3 worst albums. We finally made it. And of course, at number 3, we had to give it to Led Zeppelin. What? No, that can't be right. What? Led Zeppelin? Oh, I see the mix-up. Classic mix-up. It's when one band sounds exactly like the other band, and they're completely ripping off their style. I wasn't initially part of the hate train for this band, I didn't really get it, but then I went back and listened to old Led Zeppelin records and compared the two, and holy shit, they are completely ripping off their sound, like, right down to the whole imagery of it. I'm genuinely surprised they're getting so much support from the music community for this. Like, yeah, I know, they've been getting shit ratings everywhere, but they're up for a few Grammys, and I heard they're doing really good sales-wise, too. Now, see, before the top 3, it was just annoying albums that I thought really just didn't deserve a right to exist. But now I'm really getting pissed off because this album just has no spark of originality throughout the entirety of it. There's maybe a few times when the instrumentals that they're playing actually sound like they're genuinely coming from the heart, but how do you even say that that's okay when they're completely ripping off the riffs that a Led Zeppelin would play back in the day? And you know what sucks is you can tell these guys aren't inept at what they're doing. They completely understand how to play the instruments and how to construct a good song. All they need is their content and style to change and be their own thing, but yet they refuse to do it and just capitalize off the market that's missing the old rock genre. Everybody rips on the Imagine Dragons, and I'm not the biggest fan of them either, but at the very least they're attempting to make their own music, and they have their own style to them, even if it is extremely formulaic and dull. There's really not much more I can say about this album other than it's extremely lacking in originality and is just copying Led Zeppelin from front to back. I guess if you love listening to copycat music, this is your album. But if you're trying to hear how it's done right, go ahead and pick up a copy of Led Zeppelin 3. Now for this next segment, I was definitely prepared to tear into Lil Xan for about a minute. However, I think we need to give the boy a little slack this year. I mean, for real. No, I'm not kidding, guys. I'm being completely 100% honest. You know, he was hospitalized for eating too many Flaming Hot Cheetos. You guys know that, right? That's gotta be extremely traumatizing. And let us also not forget the heart-wrenching saga that was him dating Noah Cyrus for one full week. Do you guys have any idea how serious this is? This is like seeing Kanye and Kim, or Jay-Z and Beyonce split up. This is that monumental of a relationship. I don't think you guys understand. And let us all not forget the life-changing decision that he made. I don't even know if this is exactly 100% true or not, if he's just going to backtrack within 2019. He gave up music. What do we do, guys? I don't know what I'm doing with myself. I don't know what you guys are going to do with yourself. Like, what if we never hear a song like TikTok again? What if we never hear a song like The Man again? I don't know, man. I don't know if I could live. I don't know if I could live not hearing any song like that again from Lil Xan. From my understanding, he's now currently in rehab, which is good. I'm glad he's getting help for himself. I'm glad that he may improve in his music in the future if he does continue to pick up music. So yeah, this is just all good fun. I'm not really ripping on that guy. I hope he gets good help. But at the end of the day, this just was not that good of an album. I think we all know how shit of an album this was. Hopefully, if he does pursue music, like I said, he does a lot better than this fucking monstrosity. And the number one worst album of 2018 is... Play that clip, Lick a Tongue.
2 and 3 and 4.
It won't sound real true to get around. Start on my way with that. Sing on Shaggy. Hey.
Sweet nightingale, why do you wake me so? Sweet nightingale.
Alright, everybody just hear me out for 1 second. I think, like, they were almost aware of how, like, awkward this would sound, because this whole album, ladies and gentlemen, this whole album, I don't know why this exists, but it does, and I enjoy every second of it in the worst, best possible way. Generally, collaboration albums between two different genre artists aren't exactly the best bodies of work out there, but they aren't all that awful either. They're just exactly, not the best in either of their discographies. But this is really something, because on the first track, 44/876, it is a complete reggaeton type Shaggy track. And then later, like a few tracks after, you go into Waiting for the Break of Day, which is a complete Sting sounding track. And it's just like, these two people are bringing their styles together for one album. But it is so clunky and awkward, I can't help but laugh throughout the duration of almost all of this. But what's even the best part about this is, I don't even think they care. I think they're just having a fuck ton of fun. And honestly, I can't blame them. They're this far into their careers, they know that people really don't give too big of shits about them anymore. Why not make an album like this, honestly? And to me, it worked, because while this is my worst album of 2018, it's only because it is laughably bad. Like, it is so bad that I find it humorous. And I can't believe for a second they wouldn't know how awkward this would sound going into it. So this whole album, just taking a step back, not taking it seriously, acknowledging that it's a bad album, you can listen to this album and have so much fun. Like, I mean, so much fun. When it isn't their vocals that are cracking me up, it's usually the production that they choose to put the vocals over, because it is so misfitting at times. Like, man. Just do me a favor and listen to the first track. If that doesn't put a smile on your face with just what everything that they're trying to cram into that song, then I don't know what will. You must be some kind of Nazi. Is that a monetization I see? But yeah, thank you Sting and Shaggy for doing this, because you could have very easily have said, this probably is not a good idea, this probably will not come out sounding well, and we should not do this. But you guys did it anyways, and I cannot thank you enough for making the most laughably bad albums of 2018 and maybe this decade. I don't know yet. I gotta put it to the test. I gotta do the math, but we'll see. I know to some people there are probably way worse albums that came out this year, but just to me, this took the cake and ran with it. Just by the way this sounded, the smile it put on my face for being the quality that it is. Honestly, I couldn't picture any other album holding this position. Whew. Alright, finally we made it. Alright, that is it. That is the worst albums of 2018. Like I said earlier in the video, if you guys disagree with my opinion, don't get too butthurt over it. Listen, I understand everybody has their own taste in music, and to me, I just saw a lot of improvement in these albums, and I thought maybe these artists like Justin Timberlake and Nicki Minaj, Quavo, etc., they could be doing a better job of putting quality music out there for their fans. But like I said in the beginning of the video, this is just to spark conversation and to share my own opinion. So if you guys want to tell me what your least favorite albums of the year were, go ahead and do that in the comment section below. I really appreciate if you would like or subscribe either. Stay tuned, I am going to be giving you my best albums of 2018 soon. And my end of the year goal, I'm trying to get to at least 5 subscribers. I know, I'm really reaching. 5 subscribers, I think we can get there. I think we can do it. But again, I appreciate for tuning in this video, giving me some of your time today. And I hope you guys, if this is the only video you see from me for the rest of the month, I hope you guys have a wonderful holidays, and I will see you guys in the next one.